It was before dawn when terror struck the capital city. The residents of this 9-story block were all still sleeping when the attack happened. The apartments are next to a school and playing fields. There are no military targets here. The explosion tore down the block stairwell, making the way out impossible for some. Fire crews had to stretcher residents to safety. Russian officials have insisted they're not targeting civilians, but try telling these people that.
I was woken by this huge explosion and everything in the room was on the floor. Windows, the TV, everything. My television had been smashed into the wall in front of the window. I climbed out of the rubble and then I saw my neighbors were also alive. They got out through my window because they couldn't get out any other way.
This was a real step up in the Russian attacks inside the capital. A terrifying development for its residents, many of whom have insisted they'll fight to the end. Yet more homes destroyed and shattered lives packed into suitcases. But there's real anger too at what's happening here.
I'll kill Russians whenever I see them. I carried my mother out with my bare hands. She's 84 years old. She was cut by glass, but she's alive. For what? You need to close the skies.
Within the space of a morning, the capital had suffered several attacks. This was the Antonov aircraft plant, Ukraine's largest. At this stage, it seemed to the city's residents they were facing multiple strikes in Kyiv, as well as heavy fighting on at least 3 fronts in the city's suburbs. Look at this CCTV. It's the city's 3rd attack in hours, only a couple of miles from the district hit earlier. The missile was intercepted by Ukraine's air defences, but the debris showered down on another heavily built-up residential area, destroying a tram and taxi, devastating lives and homes, and filling residents with fear. I feel terrible, he says, and then breaks down. He's full of rage and emotion. He apologises. He can barely talk, but tells us this is the result of what he calls the West's policy of appeasement. He means the rest of the world's reluctance to get directly involved, and Ukrainian politicians insist hitting homes is deliberate by the Russian leader.
He can't win at our army. Our army is holding the ground. So he started to fight with unarmed people, with pregnant women like in Mariupol, with children, with just civilians who just live. So that's a genocide in 21st century in the middle of Europe.
And this while peace negotiations are ongoing to try to find a way out of this. But talk of ceasefires and troop withdrawals seem a very long way off right now as residents pick through their broken homes. They are going to extraordinary lengths because many of their possessions and everything they own are still in these flats. So they're having to use the fire trucks to get entrance. Russia's been accused of targeting hospitals, schools and homes for weeks now. Attacking civilian areas and non-combatants is a war crime, and Ukrainian lawyers who are gathering evidence say the Russian troops are also specifically focusing on food supply chains.
There's a bread factory very close to here, and they could have been trying to attack the food supply chain for the city. It wouldn't have been the first time.
The tactic of surrounding cities, starving the citizens of supplies and bombarding them with airstrikes is one favoured by the Russians. They've used it in Syria. Now Ukraine, and specifically Kyiv, is in their sights, but they didn't reckon on this defiance and patriotism. They have to know we're strong, he shouts down. The world probably knows that by now. Alex Crawford, Sky News in Kiev.